Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see the next chapter of Polity Lakshmikant, that is Governor. So we are going to start the state executive from today onwards. So before getting started this lecture, first let us see some of the important details regarding this governor. So we are going to discuss some of the interesting facts regarding this governor. So we already completed union executive, right? So who all will comes under this union executive? That is president, vice president, prime minister, union council of minister, and as well as attorney general of India. So these are the people mainly comes under the union executive. So what about the state executive? So state mainly contains constitutional head, that is governor, and we have chief minister, and we have state council of ministers, and also advocate general of India. Advocate general of state. So attorney general of India will comes under the part of union executive, and advocate general of state comes under the part of state executive. So these are the people which comes under the state executive. So what is the thing which is missing in the state executive? Here in the union executive we have the vice president. So here we do not have any vice governor, that is a post that is present in the state executive. So if you see regarding the state executive, here chief minister and the state council of ministers, they are directly and the indirectly elected people. That means overall this chief minister and this state council of ministers, they are elected persons, whether it may be directly or either it may be indirectly. So what about this governor? This governor, he is not elected person. So if you are comparing the state executive with the union executive, here regarding the president here, he is a person elected indirectly by the people. But if you are comparing the post of the president with the governor here, governor, he is not elected person. So in this way, here state executive which is not matching to the president of union executive here. So if you see this post of the governor here this post of the governor, he is a somebody. That one thing you should remember regarding this governor here is, you are making somebody as a constitutional head of the state. So if you see one fact regarding this governor who has nothing to do with the state, and he is the person not from that state even. So this is about something regarding this governor. So if you see regarding the articles, article 153 to article 162 of Indian Constitution mainly talks about governor. So if you see this article 153, it mainly talks about there shall be governor. So usually one governor will be present for one state. But with the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act, what happened? There shall be one governor for more than one state. So because of this 7th Constitutional Act will be very, very important regarding presence. And if you see here, the role which is played by this governor, it is a dual role. So why dual role? He will be the part of the state executive. So this is the first important role. And the second important role, to understand this, first we have to see the functions of the center. So if you see the center, it has a responsibility that center should ensure the functioning of the state which is according to the constitutional provisions. So how center will ensure there is a constitutional provisions that are following in the state? That is mainly through this governor office. So because of this, here governor have the dual role. I hope you understand what I want to say here. So because of this, we can say we have the quasi-federal state with unitary tilt. Okay. So we have finally quasi-federal state with the unitary tilt, because central mainly want to control the state with the office of the governor here. So in this way, we can say this governor who is the connecting link between the state and as well as the center. So he makes the state that is following according to the constitutional rules and as well as the central policies. So because of this, governor mainly acts as a link between the center and as well as the state here. So who will appoint this governor? Here President of India will be appointing this governor. So if you see here, we need to see these important articles, that is article 153 to article 162. And he will be the important part of the state executive, and he plays a dual role. And if you see this governor who is not an elected person. So these are some important facts that you should remember. Now let us see some of the important details regarding this governor that is given in our Lakshmikant. So now let's get with our discussion, start with our discussion. So if you see this part 6 of our constitution mainly deals with the government of state. That means it is talking about the state executive. So if you are talking about the state executive, mainly the articles from 153 to article 167. So these are the articles mainly talking about the state executive as a whole. And this state executive mainly contains governor, chief minister, council of minister, that is state council of minister, and as well as advocate general of state. So these are the important things which is very important for prelims. And if you see, when we are comparing with the central executive with the state executive, one post which is missing in the state executive, that is vice governor. So if you see, in the central executive we have the vice president, but in the state executive there is no post of the vice governor that is present. And if you see, our governor mainly acts as an agent of the central government. Therefore this office of governor has a dual role. Mainly central want to ensure that the state functioning according to the constitutional provisions, and that can be ensured by this office of governor. So because of this, governor has a dual role. And if you see one important fact for prelim, that is usually there is a one governor for one state, but with the 7th Constitution Amendment Act, that is CAA of 1956, mainly facilitated that the appointment of the same person as a governor for more than one state, that means more than 2 or more states. And now let us see about the appointment of governor. So one important thing, that is governor is neither directly elected by the people nor indirectly elected by the people. That means he is mainly appointed by the president, mainly under the warrant, under his hand and seal. That means whenever the president want to remove that governor, he can remove that governor. And the draft constitution mainly provided for the direct election of the governor, mainly on the basis of adult suffrage, that is universal adult suffrage. But in our constituent assembly, they mainly opted for the present system of appointment of governor. So one important question I want to ask here is, from where we got this appointment of governor, from which country? Okay, so this is the important thing. And if you see why we do not have the direct elections for this governor, so there are some reasons that are given in your book. So let us see those reasons as well. The first and the foremost here is, whenever we are going for the direct election of the governor, it is incompatible mainly with the parliamentary system of democracy. So we adopted parliamentary system of democracy, but not the presidential system. So in this parliamentary system of democracy, it is very incompatible when we are going with the elections for the governor. And the next one is, the mode of direct elections is more likely to create the conflicts between the directly elected persons, like we can say council of ministers, and also we have the chief minister, right? So this chief minister, it is elected by the people. So because of this elected post of the chief minister, and when we are going for the elected post of this governor, so they will create some conflicts here. So because of this, we do not have the elections to the governor post. And the governor being only the constitutional head, there is no point in making the elaborate arrangements for election. And whenever we are going for the election, we need to spend a lot of money here, so it will be waste. So this is also one reason. And the next one is, the election of the governor would be entirely of personal issues. So it is not in the national interest to involve the large number of the public for the elections. And the next one is, an elected governor would naturally belongs to a party, and he would be neutral person and an impartial head here. So what happened? Governor should be impartial. So because of this, what happened? We need not go for the elections. And the next one is the election of governor would create some separatist tendencies. So whenever it is creating some separatist tendencies, it will also create some political instability, and as well as it will be danger for the unity of our country. So because of this is also one reason. And the next one is the system of presidential nomination, which enables the center to maintain the control over the state. But we adopted the parliamentary system of democracy. And the next one is whenever we are going for the direct election of the governor, that will create mainly the serious problem of leadership at the time of the general elections. So whenever we are going for the elections of the governor and election for the CM and the council of ministers, then what happen? It will create some disturbances. And the next one is chief minister would like his nominee to contest for the governorship. So because of this, the second rate man of the ruling party which is elected as a governor. So this is also one of the important cause of concern. So now let us see the qualifications of the governor. So our constitution lays only two important qualifications regarding the appointment of a person as a governor. The first one is he should be the citizen of India. And the next one is he should be completed 35 years of age. Only these two qualifications are provided in our constitution. But to addition to this, there are two conventions that are mainly developed. So the first one is he should be the outsider of the state. That means he should not be the resident of that state, because he should act as an impartial person. So whenever any person of that state elected as a governor, then he will become under the influence of the local politics, mainly to make this governor post impartial. So he should be outsider. And the next one is while appointing the governor, who will be appointing? Appointed by the President of India. So in this context, this President of India need to consult the chief ministers of state, and because mainly it will helpful for the smooth functioning of the constitutional machinery in the state. So these are some important qualifications. Now let us see the conditions of governor's office. Our constitution mainly lay down some conditions. The first one is he should not be the member of either house of the parliament. That means he should not be the member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, and he should not be the members of state legislature. That is we can say state legislative assembly or legislative council. So in the both these things, that is in the parliament and as well as in the state legislature, he should not be the member. So what happens if he is the member in the parliament or in the state legislature? He need to vacate his seat simply. And the next one is he should not hold any other office of profit. And next one is he is mainly entitled to the emoluments, allowances and the privileges. They are determined mainly by the parliament, not by the President of India. So this is the mistake mainly done by the many students. Okay. So the emoluments, allowances and the privileges, they are mainly determined by the parliament, but not the President of India. So this is the important fact. And the next one is when the same person is appointed as a governor of two or more states. So what about these emoluments, allowances and the privileges? They will be determined by the president in this context. Okay. So again, this is one important prelims fact. And the next one is before entering into the office, he should make oath and affirmation. So in his oath, the governor mainly swears about. The first one is faithfully execute the office and to preserve, protect and defend the constitution and the law, and to devote himself to the service and the well-being of the people of the state. So this is the oath of the governor here. So oath, who will administer this? Again, this will be important for prelims. Oath of the governor is administered mainly by the Chief Justice of that concerned High Court. So if at all this Chief Justice of the High Court is absent, then in that High Court, who will be the senior most judge? He will administer the oath. And if you see the term of the governor's office, generally the term is 5 years. But as we know here, this governor will be appointed by the President of India under his warrant with the hand and seal. That means President of India can remove the governor's office at any time. That means we can say here the term of this 5 years, it is mainly subjected to the pleasure of President. That means whenever the President wants to remove him, he can remove him. But if the governor wants to resign, but to whom this resignation letter to be given? Here the resignation letter that to be given to the president. And the next one is Supreme Court held that the pressure of the president, it is not justifiable. And the next one is governor has no security of the tenure and there is no fixed term of office. If at all the president want to remove him, he can remove at any time. And let us see the powers and the functions of the governor. So these powers mainly included under 4 types of the headings. The first one is executive powers, second one is legislative powers, third one is financial powers, fourth one is judicial powers. So let us see one by one. So these powers will be important regarding mains point of view. Now let us see the executive powers. All the executive actions of the government of the state, they are formally taken in his name. So this is the first one, okay. All the executive actions of the state, of the government of the state, they are formally taken in his name. And the next one is he can also make some rules, mainly specifying the orders and other instruments which are made and executed in his name shall be authenticated. So he can also able to make some rules, okay. So this is the second one. And the third one is he can make the rules mainly for the convenient transaction of the business of the state government. And he can also go for the allocation of the business to the ministers. And the next one is he mainly appoints the chief minister and as well as other ministers. And the next one is he can also appoint the advocate general of state. Okay, one important thing regarding this advocate general of state here is this advocate general of state mainly holds the office during the pleasure of governor. He can also appoint the state election commissioner and he can also appoint the chairman and the members of state public service commission. So one important prelims fact here is regarding this state public service commission, the members will be appointed by the governor, but those members will be removed by the President of India. So most of the students will confuse here, so please mark it. And he can also seek any information which is relating to the administration of the affairs of the state. And if he want anything information, then that information can also be get from these people. And he can also recommend for the imposition of the constitutional emergency, that is according to the article 356 of Indian Constitution, mainly talks about the president's rule or state emergency or the constitutional emergency. Whenever the functioning of the state which is not according to the constitutional provisions, then governor will submit the report to the president for the imposition of this constitutional emergency in the country. So this is also one important power. And he also acts as a chancellor of universities in the states. So these are the some executive powers. And the next one is legislative powers. Here under this legislative powers, here we can compare this legislative powers of the president with the governor and almost same powers that is seen in this legislative powers. The first one is he can summon or prorogue the state legislature and also he can dissolve the state legislative assembly. The first one is he can summon and as well as prorogue, and even he have the power to dissolve the state legislative assembly. And the next one is he can address the state legislature at the commencement of the first session and as well as each general election. Okay, after each general election the first session will be addressed by this governor and as well as the first session of each year. So the same power that is present with the President of India as well. And the next one is governor can also send the messages to the house or the houses of the state legislature, mainly regarding the bill which is pending in the legislature or otherwise. And he can also appoint the members of state legislative assembly to preside over its proceedings as well. So whenever the office of the speaker and as well as the deputy speaker, they fall vacant in the state legislative assembly, he can ask any member, he can appoint, not ask, he can appoint any member of this state legislative assembly mainly to preside over this proceedings. So in the same way, whenever in the state legislative council, chairman or the deputy chairman is absent, then he can appoint any member of the state legislative council mainly to preside over the meeting. And he can also nominate 1/6 of the members of the state legislative council, mainly who are having some special knowledge regarding the literature, science, art, cooperative movement and social service, etc. and he can also decide on the question of disqualification of the member of the state legislature in the consultation with the Election Commission of India. And the important power regarding the governor here is whenever any bill which is passed by the state legislature, then that bill will come to the governor for assent. So whenever the bill which coming to the governor for the assent, he have some choices. He can give the assent, he can withhold the assent, he can return the bill. So whenever he is returning the bill, and again this bill will comes to the governor, whenever again the bill which is coming to the governor, either with some changes or without changes, then the governor needs to give his assent. And one more important power of the governor here is he can reserve the bill for the consideration of the president. Whenever any bill which is regarding the against the provisions of constitution, which is opposing the DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy, it is against the larger interest of the country, or then the bill which is of grave national importance, and whenever the bill which is dealing with the compulsory acquisition of the property, then those bills which are mainly reserved by the governor to the president. And the next important power here is according to Article 213 of Indian Constitution, mainly talks about the ordinance power of governor. So under this legislative power, we can also add this ordinance making power under Article 213 of Indian Constitution. And the next important one is he lays the reports of the State Finance Commission and also the State Public Service Commission, Comptroller Auditor General reports before the state legislature. So these are some legislative powers. Now let us see the financial powers. The first one is he sees the annual financial statement, that is state budget, which is laid before the state legislature. So whenever the money bills are introduced in the state legislature, there is a need of the prior recommendation of the governor, and no demand for a grant that will be made on his recommendation. So this is also one financial power. And the next one is he can also make the advances out of the contingency fund of state, mainly to meet some unforeseen expenditure. If at all any unnatural thing or any disaster happen, so from this contingency fund of the state, he can make some advances as well. And the next one is he constitute a finance commission for every 5 years that will review the finance position of the panchayats and as well as the municipalities. So these panchayats and the municipalities, they come under the local self-governance under the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendments Act. And finally, we are going to see the judicial powers. So under the judicial powers, governor, he can grant the pardons, reprieve, respite, remissions regarding and also commute the sentence of a person convicted any offence against the law which is relating to the matter of which executive power of state extends but not in the center. So wherever the executive power of the state which is extending, so within the limitations of the state power, so he can grant the pardon, reprieve, respite, remission, suspension, remit and as well as commute. So we discussed detailedly about these terms in the central executive, right? And the next one is he is consulted by the president mainly while appointing the judges of the concerned state high court. So this is also one judicial power. So under the judicial power, governor, he can make the appointments, postings and promotions of the district judges mainly in the consultation with the state high court. And he can also appoint the person to the judicial service of the state mainly with the consultation with the state high court and as well as the state public service commission. So these are some judicial powers. So these are some important things that you should remember regarding this governor. So I hope you understand this lecture. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos.